Hello, tubers. How are you today? Well, I hope you're doing well, praying the rosary, getting closer to God, reading the Bible, and following God's ways. Because Yahweh is the best way. Today I wanted to intermingle Bible quotes and current affairs. Current political affairs. Namely, the situation with the counting of the votes for the presidential election. Here we are on December 4th of 2020, one whole month after the election, and it's still kind of up in the air. My opinion is this. Even though Donald Trump and his team may have some correct feelings in regards to the system is going to protect itself. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the counting, even though Donald Trump may or may have not won the presidential election, that is not going to matter, because we have a situation in this world right now that Satan is on top. And this is just a process of getting to where Jesus will come with his angels and take back justice. So I wanted to quote the Bible a little bit, some verses that will make my point. Let's go to Timothy. 2 Timothy, verse 4, chapter 4, verses 3 and 4. I'm sorry. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. This sounds to me very much like the media. The media that bombards us each and every day with talking points. And this particular quote in the Bible in 2 Timothy, stating, which I'm kind of understanding, is this: that they will have itching ears, and they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. So to me, the mainstream media is basically suiting their own passions by listening to others. They're accumulating themselves teachers to suit their own passions. Now, these teachers are basically the people who have the money-making machine. And because the mainstream media is a profit, it's for profit. It's not a non-profit. It is a profit company. And people are lovers of money, so their itching ears are basically itching to hear that they'll receive more income. We'll pay you X amount of money. No, we'll pay you double X, triple X, which suits their own passions, right? Those monies that they do as a media, they make money which suits their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. So because they've received monies, they will turn away from listening to the truth because they've been bought. They've been bought out. They've been compromised. So they will wander off into myths, stating a bunch of baloney. So they will wander off into myths. And of course, since they are the talking points, or the people who talk and communicate to listeners and watchers, viewers, It's contagious because then the people who watch this particular information from the media, they also wander off into myth because they're sheep and they're being led by the sheep herder or the shepherd, which is the mainstream media, which is been bought out by the ones who own the money making machine, the magic printer. Another quote, another verse in 2 Timothy. This is in chapter 3, verses 1 through 17, but it's kind of shortened up here. It says, "But understand this, that in the last days there will be times of difficulty. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unpleasantable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. Avoid such people." So there's a lot of people out there these days that are portraying these characteristics: slanderous, without self-control, lovers of pleasure. These are the people that Jesus is saying to us to avoid those people. Why does he say that? Because these people are going to take us down along with themselves. So we have to learn thanks, but no thanks. Because you don't want to have to get into that particular situation. Lastly, there's another Bible verse. This is in Ephesians chapter 6. And it's verses 10 through 12. "Finally, being strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." So God is telling us in Ephesians that we need to be strong, that we have to put on the whole armor of God. And this goes back to what I say in the beginning: to follow God's ways, to pray the rosary, follow the commandments, stay away from the mortal sins, going to church, being godly, divine. That's putting on the whole armor of God. Also, you want to stay away from these people and not listening to this brainwashing, because that infiltrates. So put on that whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. The devil is scheming. He's doing great schemes. So we're not to wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against authorities, the cosmic powers over the present darkness. So this is a spiritual fight. It's not a fight of flesh and blood. That's really the fight between the light and the dark, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. So it says right there at the end that these spiritual forces of evil are impeding or intruding into the heavenly places. They're not confined to their little cave, so to speak. So these are the things that basically are reiterating to me to the current state of affairs regarding the election results. It's basically proclaiming that we're in devilish times and that we have to put on the whole armor of God. We have to cover ourselves totally, because the devil is so strong right now that if there's a spot to get into, like what they call the Achilles heel, he'll attack the Achilles heel. Wherever he's got to attack, he'll attack. That's why you have to put the whole armor of God. We can't leave one sliver open, because these spiritual forces of evil will intrude into our heavenly place, which is our soul. Right? So when you hear injustice, think to yourself, I got to put on my armor, my whole armor. When you hear the fact that Joe Biden, even though the election was skewed and he becomes president, even though the Trump team has proven that these votes were illegal, don't matter. Because the spiritual forces of evil have got into the heavenly places. So when you see and you feel and you hear injustice, say to yourself, I got to put on my whole armor of God. Because just because you're right doesn't mean that you're not wrong. Because even though you're right, because there's such demons out there, you're going to be in the wrong or the convicted or corrupted side, even though you're clean. So these are the things we have to think about these days, because we really are in the end of times, and all of this is coming to a head. So don't fear. Just be aware and get ready and be ready, because these are the end of the days, and basically we might be snapped up, and we might be in front of the judgment seat. So anything can happen. So be warned, but be prepared, and don't fret. If you're with God, you're with the winner. You're with the protection. So anyway, hope you learned something from today. If you liked the message, please give a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And as always, God bless.